All right, good morning. The last episode didn't work. My little fluffy microphone got messed up with the jack. They should have put a fluffy blocker in front of the jack so that it wasn't so hard to not get the fluff in the jack when you plug it in. Anyway, welcome to the commute. It is a beautiful morning. Nothing special planned today. I've got code on the mind. Project at work, and just none of the code's working. Nobody can figure out why. I haven't coded in forever. I'm not a big fan of code. This is called Pro C. Never worked with Pro C before, so there's a absolute learning curve there as well. So yeah. Anyway. Off to work to go crank on some more code. Like I said, last episode got all foobarred. Basically, I covered a few things. You know, I just finished my Rise and Grind by Damon John. Pretty good book, super short compared to my other one that we finished just prior, which is Own the Day. Not so many tips. Had, you know, some stories in there that should give you some motivation. Pretty sure you've heard some motivational stories in your life, and how you know, working and grinding and just knowing how to work can get you moving ahead. Knowing how to work is a big thing, so hopefully you know how to work. And then I'm looking for a new book. I read something by Rob Dyrdek on he's the what was it, Fantasy Factory guy. He does the MTV Ridiculousness. If you haven't heard of him, that's who he is. Most people hopefully have. He's a pretty smart kid. He's done a lot of good things. He talked about a book on LinkedIn that I need to go research a little bit and see if I can find something about live rich, be rich or something. But he mentions and talks about that book. Supposedly it's classic. I'm new to this stuff, so nothing's really classic to me because I've never heard of any of these. But anyway, looking for a new book. If you got one to recommend to me, sure, drop one in the comments. I'm on the hunt. But so Audible only gives you 1 credit a month for your $14 subscription. It's probably $15, right? $14.95 probably. Everybody does that 95 thing. And so I'm in the middle of the month where I've got to buy more credits to get a new book, which is worth my time, it's worth my money to go buy some credits. But yeah, the last book, you know, reached almost the full month. It took, it was probably like twice as long, like 18 hours worth of listening, where Damon John's was 9. So yeah, anyway, you know, Audible issues daily. This is just personal issues. But something else I got into, you know, the last one I talked about was trade shows. Hopefully some of that made sense, because you can spend a lot of money on trade shows. I'm still waking up. I'm still doing my cold shower in the morning from the book, Own Your Day. Still a great recommendation. It does not get any easier. It is still about as pleasant as it's ever been. But it's nice. I actually get in and get out before it ever gets warm now. I don't like the warm water to help me soothe. I like to stay humming from the cold and just get out. So, feels good. It's the only reason I can probably do these in the morning and have a little bit of a coherent thought. Because, I mean, I only woke up 30 minutes ago. And if it wasn't for the cold shower, I'd be a lot slower. Because, you know, I'm not a coffee guy. Morning water doesn't really wake you up like other things. Haven't had a Monster. Could use a Monster. It's been a couple days. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I was trying to go pick up some bolts, so I'm trying to put together a care package to send to one of my buddies that I license stuff to. I've got a tool bag for dirt bikes. I've got an AC tool, you know, in this networking thing, and talking to him. And when I say network and talk to people, you just never know what you're going to get. he used to be in the hand tool industry, so he knows people, and he used to design tools. So who better, this is the tool that maybe I've talked about, where we had potentially had a license option, but with big companies it's down the road years. So it was at least 2.5 years when we had worked this out with Malco. And it's my buddy's idea. I designed it and made it work for them based on whatever they were thinking, and really came to get together with the design. So I just followed his lead. I said, if you don't want to wait that long, you want to try and roll with it yourself, maybe produce a few, whatever, and not wait on Malco. So we didn't. He asked for it back. He hasn't heard anything from them since, and been super busy to try and hit them up, see where things are at, or if they're even interested, which they probably aren't. Now that they've seen what they had, their talk was like they were gonna try and modify it to work with something else. I don't know. Long story short, because this is getting super long, is that we still have the tool. It's still 2 years later, so maybe we should have just sat on it, because we've been too busy to do anything with it since, and not thought that we were gonna push or do something with it. But I'm gonna send it to this guy. He's also the guy I licensed my flow control, my fuel shut off when you're filling up your dirt bike and you don't want to overfill the thing, but you're like staring in this little teeny hole wearing your helmet, holding 5 gallons of fuel above your head. Sometimes it's kind of difficult not to. So the flow control works, especially if you know what you're doing or what it's trying to do. You can make it work every time, but it's not dummy proof. So right now I'm trying to work on a redesign to make it dummy proof. One of the things is that it's too uniform in the float. I want the float to dance, and it'll make it pop up and close easier if it's dancing and moving. So I'm putting a little dancer on the float. That should help it keep the float moving and not binding up. And then another one's like a staging clip that it'll help stage it, because the dropout is a long story. Anyway, it's kind of fun. I think I'm almost there. Having 3 printers awesome, man. I ought to show you some pictures. You can follow on YouTube. I mean, I share some of this stuff, especially if you're listening on SoundCloud. You're not getting the full gist of what I do. So these ones are generally just chatty, and then I've got other videos that show demos. I'm just finishing up some more of my GoPro water sport mount stuff, and gonna do some more testing. So I always put some cool stuff out there and show how I prove concepts, and then literally I take those proven concepts from YouTube videos and send them to people to see if I can talk them into producing them. So the reason I mention some of these things is because I've talked about them before. I've got videos about them. You can go out there and check them out. So anyway, today hopefully I've got high hopes. We'll have some progress on some of this code stuff. I've literally spent days on this code and no progress. Still doesn't run, still chokes with about the same error. But got high hopes. Keep them hopes high. Anyway, I had an aunt pass away. I don't think I'm gonna travel home for it. Last time I went home was for a buddy's funeral. Can't miss your buddy's stuff. As you're getting older, I'm 42. You gotta hit this stuff, and because it's part of life now. You can lose more and more of them as we go. So stay healthy, be kind, and always rewind. Can you believe most kids don't even know what that means? Be kind, rewind. Hopefully you know what that means. There's so many things that are changing. Like literally, I watched a bunch of documentaries yesterday we see these Weibo auto driving taxis, that are self-driving cars. Watch some on a company that's like, why even have a person? It should just autonomously be everything. So they want it to be a robotic car that picks you up, drops you off. Watched another one about Rwanda. Go figure that Rwanda has an actual drone delivery system. It's super cool. Give them total credit. I don't know where it came from and who put the tech into it, because it's an glider, so it's pretty efficient, can hold a pretty good payload, and the reason they use it is because Rwanda, it's totally rural, none of it's really paved. I mean, we don't have issues trying to get blood from one place to the other, right, for hospital needs, but they do. So anytime they have some blood needs, they put it in order. The place wherever the blood's stored drops out the order off to this drone location. They load it up in a drone, program some settings, and it goes and drops the payload as it flies over the drop site, and returns to base. And it returns, and it's got this little teeny tail hook. It's like what you'd think an aircraft carrier does, but the drone's job is just to fly through the uprights. It's like a field goal. And when it gets to a certain point in the uprights, some arms flip up with a wire and grab the back end of that thing and just snake it out of the air. It's pretty slick, because I mean, the tail hook's an inch in depth. We're talking that thing whips up a small little cable and shit, puts it right in the money spot right there. Yeah, and then they just take it down, load, wait for their next order. It's pretty slick in Rwanda of all places. But again, like, who wants that flying around in the city and dropping stuff? So it makes sense. Totally makes sense that they would use it out there in rural locations. Totally cool tech, though. So there's things in life that we will no longer be able to see. Just like going to a Blockbuster, having a VCR tape that you got to rewind before you return it, or they'll fine you, or all these things. We've got such an interesting life that changes every 10 years drastically. It is incredible. So yeah, stuff my kid fights the not being able to drive thing. He wants to be able to drive. He wants to stick shift. He wants all the old school stuff, be able to wrench on a car, just all the things that, I guess it's because I watch Top Gear, and now it's Grand Tour with him, and just things like that. He's kind of a little gearhead. We wrench on dirt bikes and quads, but that's changing. There's people that won't have a clue what an engine looks like, or what's going on under the hood. It will get you there or back, and if it doesn't, then I guess you'll call a different service and get there another way. So I guess it's all good, as long as the AI doesn't take over the world. Like, it's just weird, even for Trump to be talking about a space force, like an army, military presence in space. Granted, wasn't it Reagan that talked about the space defense, and they were gonna shoot down some of these missiles with lasers? Maybe they did it and they just don't want to show you, because it's kind of the opposite, right? You got the moon landing that they say was faked to make the Russians think that we did, when we really didn't. But it really kind of gets you advanced, right? When you put that false narrative, and that's the word of the day in the media today, false narrative, fake media. But it's funny, because I don't know if we did or didn't. I say it's that we could have. Obviously, technology exists now that we do. I mean, it was all moving that way. Whether we faked it at the time to show that we were ahead of the Russians in our space exploration, you could totally see a reason why that somebody might try and pull that off, right? Or, these days, I would think you would fork it. You would be like, I'm gonna partially go down the channel of knowing how to fake it while we try and get there, and if you guys don't get there, we're going with the video that's fake, and we're gonna tell the world that you did. Go and see who wins. Because I'm not a big one way or the other, man. I don't think that just because you heard it, saw it, you have to believe it. In the world we live in, it's pretty trip like that way, right? Pretty trippy to know who to trust and how to research and verify. Research and verify, people. And even that's impossible. I mean, literally, I Google everything, and Google could control all my results. If you don't get that, that's one of the biggest things that you have to question. is Google and Facebook, and anybody that can control the content you read based on your search criteria means they can control what you believe, because that's the results that they bring back to you. So it's Trip, not big into conspiracies, but there's a lot of things that, as a guy with a lot of common sense that I like to think I have, do not make sense. They absolutely do not make sense. So anyway, I'm gonna cut it. I can talk and talk some more, and then talk on top of that. It looks like that cold shower really did the job this morning. Wanted to touch base though. Been missing out on the commute. I got the fuzzy thing figured out. I put a fuzzy blocker on my microphone, so now I don't have to worry about the fuzzy getting plugged into the jack. I shouldn't have mic problems from now on. We'll see. You never know. Can't totally trust tech every day, all day. Anyway, thanks for riding with me. Come and ride with me again on the commute.